Every single night, while your body is asleep, your mind creates entire worlds, faces you've never seen, places that don't exist, and emotions that feel more real than reality itself. But psychology asks a question most people never stop to consider. What if your dreams aren't random at all? What if they're your subconscious mind trying to tell you something they'd been too busy to hear while you're awake? Watch this video until the end, because we're going to uncover the hidden psychology of why we dream, how your subconscious mind uses dreams to process emotions, unresolved memories, hidden fears, and even the conflicts you don't consciously recognize. By the end of this video, you'll never look at your dreams the same way again. Because you may discover that while you thought you were sleeping, your mind has been quietly trying to understand, heal, and communicate with you all along. Every night, more than 8 billion people on Earth enter a very strange state while they sleep. Your body becomes completely paralyzed. You drift through vivid hallucinations for hours, and then you wake up, almost forgetting everything that just happened. But here's the shocking part. That loss of control state is actually a superpower. In 1862, a chemist was stuck trying to figure out the structure of benzene. Frustrated, he fell asleep. In his dream, he saw snakes curling into circles and biting their own tails. Boom! The answer appeared, and it completely changed modern chemistry. The same thing happened to Paul McCartney. He woke up, and the legendary song Yesterday was already fully formed in his mind. In other words, your brain can solve complex problems even while you're asleep. But to do that, it puts aside its usual logic, mixes memories together, creates a distorted and irrational world, and then leaves you with only a vague feeling when you wake up. So, what are dreams really? Why does the brain need such a strange mechanism every single night? Today, we're going to decode one of the most mind-bending mysteries of the human experience, and the real science behind dreams. First, we need to rewind time to an old laboratory at the University of Chicago in 1952. There, a researcher named Eugene Aserinsky had an idea that people back then thought was very strange, staying up all night just to watch other people sleep. At the time, scientists believed that when we sleep, the brain simply shuts off like a light bulb. But when Aserinsky hooked electrodes up to his son's head and other volunteers, he was surprised. After a few hours of calm, deep sleep, their brains suddenly lit up. Brainwaves started going wild, as if they were awake solving calculus problems or racing in a Formula One competition. And most fascinating of all, their eyes, under closed eyelids, their eyeballs were darting back and forth rapidly, like they were watching a high-speed tennis match up close. They called it REM, rapid eye movement sleep. And every time Aserinsky woke a volunteer, right when their eyes were moving like that, most of them would shout, "Oh my God, I was just having an incredibly vivid dream." So, what's actually happening inside your head at that moment? There are 4 extremely important biological changes. First is complete paralysis. Your brainstem sends a powerful chemical signal to lock down your major muscles. Why? It's a smart safety mechanism from nature. It stops you from accidentally swinging your arm and punching your spouse while dreaming you'd be an MMA fighter in the ring. Without this system, dreams would turn into real-life disasters. Second is realistic hallucination. During REM sleep, your visual cortex becomes highly active, making dream images incredibly vivid. That's why in dreams, colors look bright, and details feel unbelievably sharp. To your brain, seeing with imagination at that moment can feel even more real than seeing with your eyes. Third is the disappearance of logic. This is the part I find the funniest. The prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reasoning, judgment, and self-control, suddenly becomes much less active. That's why in your dream, riding a giant chicken to go buy bubble tea feels totally normal and reasonable. You don't question it at all until you wake up and think, what on earth did I just dream? And, finally, memory wipe mode. The chemicals needed to form long-term memories, especially norepinephrine, drop to very low levels. It's like your brain is saying, hey, all this crazy, illogical stuff doesn't need to be saved to the hard drive. Just delete it. That's why just 10 minutes after waking up, most of your dream details quickly fade away. That's the perfect setup for a high-end virtual reality movie theater inside your skull, where you're the director, the main character, and the only audience at the same time. But this movie theater doesn't run randomly all night long. It follows a very strict schedule that scientists call the sleep cycle. Each night, You go through about 4 to 6 cycles, and each one lasts around 90 minutes. Think of it like a roller coaster ride. First, you enter light sleep, called NREM 1 and 2, short for non-rapid eye movement. Meaning, this is the stage where that fast eye movement of REM hasn't shown up yet. At this point, you can be easily awakened by a small noise, or even the sound of your cat walking by. Next, the ride drops deep into the stage of deep sleep called NREM 3. This is when delta waves, which are long, slow, powerful brain waves, take over. During this stage, your body is doing maintenance work, such as repairing tissues, building muscle, and strengthening your immune system. If you get woken up here, you will feel extremely groggy and disoriented. And then, once the body has been taken care of, the brain suddenly goes, all right, time for some entertainment. The roller coaster shoots back up, taking you into REM sleep. This is when the most vivid dreams happen. Here's something interesting. Sleep cycles are not the same throughout the night. In the first half of the night, your brain focuses more on deep sleep to recover the body. But as morning gets closer, REM stages become longer and more frequent. That's why the weirdest, longest, and most memorable dreams usually happen around 5 to 6 o'clock m, right before that annoying alarm clock goes off and ruins everything. And you know what? Humans aren't the only ones who dream. Scientists have observed REM sleep in most mammals, and even birds. Even your dog dreams. If you see your dog sleeping with its legs twitching and making little growling sounds, there's a good chance it's dreaming about chasing a giant squirrel in its own private dream park. And this is where the story starts to get even more interesting. Before Eugene Aserinsky discovered REM sleep in 1952, humans had no real idea what was happening inside the mind during sleep. Without brain scanners or electrodes for thousands of years, people tried to explain this movie theater using imagination and religious beliefs. Take the ancient Egyptians. To them, dreams were not created by the brain, but were direct messages from the gods. They valued dreams so much that they even built sleep temples. People would go there, fall into a deep sleep, and the next morning, professional dream interpreters would help decode the will of the gods. And their interpretations were pretty fascinating. If you dreamed of dying in a terrible way, don't worry. The Egyptians said that was a good sign, meaning you would live a long life. If you dreamed about peeing into the Nile River, congratulations. Your crops would thrive, and money would flow in like water. Back then, dreams were basically like a weather forecast for your fate. This idea lasted for centuries, until the early 20th century, when one of the most controversial figures appeared, Sigmund Freud. He was the one who pulled dreams down from the divine world back into the human mind. In 1900, Freud published his groundbreaking book, The Interpretation of Dreams. He proposed a theory that still makes people blush today. Freud believed that dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. According to him, every dream is a wish in disguise. Do you have hidden desires? Dark urges that society and morality will not allow you to act on while awake? Do not worry. Your brain lets you act them out in your dreams. But because these desires can be embarrassing, the brain uses symbols to encode them. For example, dreaming about a key or a stick? Well, according to Freud, it often relates to male genitalia. Then his student, Carl Jung, took the idea even further. Jung believed that dreams are not just about personal desires, but also contain shared symbols of all humanity, like the hero, the witch, or the monster. To Jung, dreams are the mind's way of helping us become more balanced and whole. For a long time, Freud and Jung made the whole world believe this. Every dream is a coded message waiting to be solved. And if you don't understand your dreams, it means you're missing out on a huge secret about yourself. But when modern brain imaging tools like fMRI and PET scans came along, neuroscientists started to notice a harsh reality. The brain during dreams works in a very mechanical and practical way. They began to move away from Freud and Jung. Instead of asking, what does this dream mean? They asked a more survival-focused question. Why would evolution keep such an energy-consuming and risky mechanism like dreaming? And from there, the 5 biggest modern scientific theories were born. The first theory, activation synthesis theory. This one is probably the most boring. Scientists suggest that dreams don't really have any deep meaning at all. During REM sleep, your brainstem sends out random, chaotic electrical signals to the cortex. Imagine your brain like a kid randomly flipping light switches on and off. Your cortex, the part responsible for making sense of the world, suddenly receives a bunch of messy signals. It panics. It can't leave things chaotic, so it tries to stitch together those random images and sounds into a story that makes some kind of sense. The result? A crazy dream is born. In other words, dreams are just your brain trying to find patterns in chaos. It's like looking at cracks on a wall and imagining you see a face. The second theory, memory consolidation theory, this is the most widely supported theory today. Scientists see dreams as the brain's save button. All day long, you collect tons of information, learning a new language, practicing a piece of music, or even remembering what your coworker wore this morning. At night, during dreams, the brain starts sorting everything out. It's like a librarian, cleaning up a messy pile of books. It decides what's important to store in long-term memory and what should be thrown away. In 2010, researchers ran a famous experiment. They had volunteers practice a very difficult 3D maze on a computer. One group took a nap and dreamed about the maze, while the other group just rested or slept without dreaming about it. The result? The group that dreamed about the maze solved it much faster later in the day. This showed that when you dream about something you're learning, your brain is actually practicing and improving that skill in the background. The third theory, threat simulation theory. Do you have nightmares? Have you ever dreamed about being chased, falling, or being attacked? Of course you have. I'd bet all of us have at some point. So, why does that happen? Evolutionary psychologists believe dreams are like a virtual reality training room for survival. Our ancestors lived in a world full of predators and enemies. If you dreamed about running from a saber-toothed tiger, your brain was practicing real survival responses. How to run faster, where to hide. Because you are in a safe place, your bed, you can rehearse the most dangerous situations without getting hurt. Thanks to these practice sessions in dreams, when you face real danger the next day, your reactions can be faster and more accurate. Nightmares, it turns out, are like a fast-track survival training course for your brain. The fourth theory, social simulation theory. This is a modern version of the threat theory. In the 21st century, we're not afraid of saber-toothed tigers anymore. We're afraid of social judgment. Dreams shift to simulating stressful social situations. A heated argument with your boss, a disastrous date with your crush, or the classic one, standing in front of a crowd giving a speech and realizing you forgot to wear pants. This is how the brain helps you handle complex relationships. It lets you practice dealing with emotional conflicts like embarrassment or rejection. Dreams are where we test out social scenarios so we can become more skilled social beings. The fifth theory, creativity and problem-solving theory. This is the key to explaining the stories of Kekulé and Paul McCartney I mentioned earlier. In dreams, because the brain's logical center is much less active, it's no longer limited by physical rules or social expectations. It freely connects ideas that normally have nothing to do with each other. It lets you truly think outside the box. A problem you can't solve while awake because you're stuck following rules. In a dream, your brain might throw out a crazy but effective solution. Dreams are like an unlimited creative lab where some of humanity's greatest ideas get delivered straight to your mind at 3 o'clock a.m., and this is where things start to get a little unsettling. Because the next theory doesn't just change how you see dreams, it changes how you see your own brain. It was proposed by the famous neuroscientist David Eagleman and is called the defensive activation theory. To understand this theory, you need to know one shocking fact about the brain. It is highly plastic, neuroplasticity. Brain regions don't stay fixed. They constantly compete for territory like countries on a map. If one region stops being active, even for a short time, nearby regions will quickly move in and take over that space. Experiments have shown that if you are completely blindfolded, the auditory and touch cortex can start invading the visual cortex in as little as 40 to 60 minutes. The brain does not allow any area to sit idle. Now, think about our ancestors. They slept in complete darkness for 8 to 10 hours every night. In that darkness, the visual cortex had no input to process at all. This created a huge evolutionary risk. If you go 10 hours without seeing anything, your visual system could start getting taken over by other senses. And when you wake up, your vision could weaken, or you might even lose some color perception. So, what was evolution's solution? Dreams. According to David Eagleman, dreams may act like a screensaver, a biological screen protection system. About every 90 minutes, the brainstem sends bursts of visual images into the visual cortex just to keep it busy. So, it can signal to other brain regions, hey, I'm still working. Don't take over my territory. In other words, We might dream to protect our ability to see. Dreams are not just artistic movies. They are a territorial battle happening inside your skull. This perspective flips everything, turning dreams from something mystical into a brutally practical biological tool. So, in the end, which theory is actually correct? Is it about cleaning up memory, practicing survival, boosting creativity, or just protecting vision? The most honest answer from science right now is probably all of them. Evolution is incredibly good at making the most out of things. Dreams may have started for a simple technical reason, like protecting the visual cortex. But over time, the brain has used that same mechanism to do many other jobs. From emotional processing and memory building to creating legendary music. What I find most fascinating after all this research is the strange contradiction of humans. We've taken pictures of black holes millions of light years away. We've decoded the entire human genome. We've created artificial intelligence that can write and draw. And yet, we still can't fully agree on why our brain runs its own movie theater every single night. Dreams remain as a reminder that the universe inside the human mind is just as vast and mysterious as the one out there. So, tonight, when you lie down, close your eyes, and start to feel your body go still. Enjoy it. You're about to enter the greatest, strangest, and most private movie theater in the world. It's the only place where you can fly, talk to people who are gone, solve the mysteries of the universe, or just grab bubble tea with a dragon. If you saw yourself in those weird movies last night, hit the subscribe button and share this video with a friend who loves dreaming as much as you do. And don't forget to flex the wildest dream you've ever had in the comments. I'm honestly curious. There's still a whole universe of mysteries you haven't discovered yet. What makes dreams even more fascinating is that they rarely disappear the moment we wake up. Even if the images fade within minutes, the emotions often remain. You may forget the face you saw, the place you visited, or the strange events that unfolded, yet somehow you carry an unexplained feeling throughout the day. You wake up unusually peaceful after a pleasant dream, or strangely anxious after a nightmare without fully remembering why. This tells us something remarkable about the human brain. While the visual details of dreams may be fragile, the emotional experiences they create are often far more durable. The brain may erase the story, but it quietly preserves the emotional lesson. This observation has led psychologists to explore another important function of dreaming: emotional regulation. Throughout every waking day, we experience hundreds of emotional events. Some bring joy, others create stress, embarrassment, excitement, disappointment, or fear. If all of those emotions remained equally intense forever, our minds would quickly become overwhelmed. During sleep, particularly during REM sleep, the brain appears to revisit many of these experiences in a much safer environment. It allows us to experience difficult emotions again, but without the immediate pressure of reacting to them in real life. In a sense, dreaming creates a psychological rehearsal room, where emotions can be processed instead of simply stored. Researchers have noticed something interesting about REM sleep. During this stage, the amygdala, the brain region heavily involved in processing fear and emotional significance, becomes highly active. At the same time, stress-related chemicals, such as norepinephrine, remain remarkably low. This creates a unique neurological condition. The brain is able to revisit emotionally significant experiences without triggering the same intense stress response that would normally accompany them during waking life. Some scientists have even described dreaming as the brain's way of saying, let's look at this memory again, but this time without overwhelming ourselves. This may explain why painful experiences often find their way into our dreams, even when we spend the entire day trying not to think about them. A difficult breakup, the loss of someone we love, an argument that left us unsettled, or a decision we deeply regret may all quietly reappear in different forms during sleep. Rarely do dreams replay these events exactly as they happened. Instead, the brain transforms them into symbols, unfamiliar places, unexpected characters, or strange situations that somehow carry the same emotional weight. Rather than creating a perfect recording, the dreaming brain seems more interested in recreating the feeling than the actual event itself. Perhaps this is why two people can experience similar dreams while interpreting them completely differently. Modern psychology has become increasingly cautious about assigning universal meanings to specific dream symbols. For decades, people searched for dream dictionaries that claimed every snake represented one thing, every falling dream meant another, and every flying dream revealed some hidden truth. Yet scientific research has shown that dreams are far more personal than that. The same symbol may carry entirely different emotional meanings depending on an individual's memories, experiences, personality, and current circumstances. A dog appearing in one person's dream may represent comfort and safety, while for someone who was once bitten by a dog, it may symbolize fear or vulnerability. Context matters far more than simple symbolism. This realization changes the way psychologists approach dreams today. Instead of asking, "What does this object always mean?" they are more likely to ask, "What does this object mean to you?" The subconscious mind speaks using the language of personal experience. It builds its stories from memories, emotions, relationships, fears, hopes, and fragments of daily life that are unique to each individual. In many ways, dreams resemble a deeply personal conversation between different parts of your crew's own mind, rather than a universal codebook waiting to be translated. Another fascinating aspect of dreaming is something known as the continuity hypothesis. This theory suggests that our dreams are not separate from our waking lives at all. Instead, they are extensions of them. The thoughts you repeatedly entertain, the goals you pursue, the worries you carry, and the tension often continue evolving long after you fall asleep. Even when dreams appear bizarre on the surface, careful examination frequently reveals emotional themes that closely mirror real life. A student worried about an upcoming examination may dream of being hopelessly lost. An entrepreneur facing uncertainty may dream of missing an important train. Although the stories differ, the underlying emotional concerns remain remarkably consistent. This is one reason why periods of major life transition often produce especially vivid dreams. Starting a new career, moving to another city, becoming a parent, ending a long relationship, or facing significant uncertainty all require the brain to reorganize enormous amounts of emotional and cognitive information. Dreaming may provide one of the mind's most effective ways of integrating these new experiences into an updated understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In this sense, every dream becomes part of a much larger psychological process, not simply entertaining the sleeping mind, but gradually helping it adapt to an ever-changing life. There is another phenomenon that continues to puzzle neuroscientists, and it may have happened to you countless times without you ever questioning it. Sometimes you dream about a place you've never visited, meet people you've never seen before, or experience situations that seem completely impossible. Then weeks, months, or even years later, something strangely familiar happens in real life. You walk into a room and instantly think, "I've been here before." You hear a conversation that feels oddly recognizable. Although many people immediately describe this as a supernatural experience, psychologists offer a much more fascinating explanation. The brain is exceptionally skilled at recognizing patterns, and because dreams combine countless fragments of memory into new combinations, it occasionally creates scenes that resemble future experiences purely by chance. When reality later overlaps with one of those dream fragments, the feeling can be so convincing that it seems almost impossible to dismiss. This demonstrates one of the brain's greatest strengths and greatest illusions at the same time. Human memory is not a perfect recording device. Every time we remember something, the brain reconstructs it rather than simply replaying it. That reconstruction allows memories to remain flexible and useful, but it also means our recollections can be influenced by new experiences. Sometimes, after a familiar event occurs, the mind subtly reshapes an old dream memory until the two appear astonishingly similar. What feels like prophecy may often be the remarkable creativity of human memory itself. Another fascinating question is why certain dreams repeat over and over again. Some people spend years having nearly identical dreams of falling, being chased, arriving late for an important event, or searching endlessly for someone they cannot find. These recurring dreams are rarely identical in every detail, yet they share the same emotional theme. Psychologists believe this repetition may occur because the underlying emotional conflict has not yet been fully processed. The dream is not necessarily repeating because the brain has failed. It may be repeating because the emotional lesson remains unfinished. Imagine reading the same chapter of a book every night without ever turning the page. Eventually, you would begin asking why the story refuses to move forward. The answer would not lie within the chapter itself, but in the fact that you never reached its dreams sometimes work in a surprisingly similar way. Until the brain successfully integrates a difficult emotional experience, unresolved conflict, or ongoing source of stress, It may continue returning to the same psychological territory again and again. This does not mean every recurring dream contains a hidden message waiting to be decoded. Rather, it suggests that the mind continues working on problems that remain emotionally significant. Researchers studying post-traumatic stress disorder have observed this process in particularly powerful ways. Individuals who have experienced severe trauma often report recurring nightmares that recreate aspects of their frightening experiences. These dreams are far more than unpleasant stories. They reflect the brain's ongoing struggle to integrate memories that remain emotionally overwhelming. This is one reason why improving sleep quality often becomes an important part of psychological recovery. Healing does not occur only during waking therapy sessions. It also depends on the brain's ability to process emotional experiences safely during sleep. At the opposite end of the spectrum lies one of the most extraordinary experiences the sleeping mind can produce: lucid dreaming. Imagine suddenly realizing in the middle of a dream that you are actually dreaming. Instead of remaining a passive participant, you become consciously aware inside the dream itself. For some people, this awareness lasts only a few seconds before they wake up. Others learn to remain inside the dream while intentionally exploring the environment around. Neuroscientists have found that during lucid dreams, areas of the prefrontal cortex associated with self-awareness become more active than they are during ordinary REM sleep. In a fascinating way, the dreaming brain temporarily regains part of the logical awareness that is usually quiet during normal dreams. Lucid dreaming has attracted increasing scientific attention, not because it is mysterious, but because it offers researchers a unique opportunity to study consciousness itself. Normally, waking awareness and dreaming awareness appear to be separate states. During lucid dreaming, however, those two worlds briefly overlap. The dream continues unfolding, yet the dreamer becomes aware that the experience is internally generated. This rare combination raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness, self-awareness, and perception. How does the brain know the difference between imagination and reality? What creates the feeling of being you, regardless of whether you are awake or asleep? Dreams continue offering scientists a remarkable laboratory for exploring these questions. Perhaps the most humbling lesson dreams teach us is how little conscious control we truly have over our own minds. Throughout the day, we like to believe we are directing our thoughts with careful intention. Yet every night, without permission or planning, the brain quietly constructs entire worlds from fragments of memory, emotion, imagination, expectation, and experience. It writes stories no author consciously designed, creates characters no artist deliberately invented, and evokes emotions powerful enough to make us laugh, cry, panic, or wake up with tears still on our faces. Long before we became aware of ourselves each morning, another part of the mind had already been awake all night, working silently behind the curtain, reminding us that the human mind remains one of the most extraordinary mysteries we have ever cared to understand. Every night, without realizing it, you place your conscious mind on pause and hand the controls over to one of the most mysterious systems ever created, the human brain. While your body rests, your mind continues working. It sorts memories, processes emotions, strengthens learning, searches for creative solutions, rehearses possible dangers, and sometimes tells stories so strange that they seem impossible to explain. Whether dreams are protecting your visual cortex, organizing your memories, regulating your emotions, or simply helping your brain adapt to an ever-changing world, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Dreams are not a meaningless accident. They are an essential part of what makes us human. Perhaps that's why, despite centuries of research, from the ancient Egyptians and the theories of Freud and Jung to the latest discoveries in neuroscience, we still haven't uncovered every answer. Every new discovery solves one mystery while revealing another. The more we learn about dreams, the more we realize how extraordinary the human mind truly is. It reminds us that the greatest mystery in the universe may not be hidden among the stars, but inside the 3 pounds of tissue we carry in our heads every single day. So tonight, before you close your eyes, remember this. You are not simply going to sleep. You are entering a world where your brain becomes the storyteller, the scientist, the artist, the problem solver, and sometimes even the therapist. A world where impossible things feel real, forgotten memories return in unexpected ways, and ideas that could change your life quietly begin to take shape. The next dream you have may fade within minutes after you wake up, or it may become the inspiration, insight, or emotional breakthrough that stays with you for years. If this video changed the way you think about dreams, let me know in the comments. What is the strangest or most unforgettable dream you've ever had? I genuinely love to hear your story. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind the human mind, consciousness, and behavior, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to The Psychology Teacher, and join me in the next one, where we'll continue uncovering the fascinating mysteries hidden inside the human mind. Until then, sleep well, because tonight, your greatest adventure may begin the moment you close your eyes. Click on the video on your screen to continue the journey of becoming smarter. See you next time.